Yeah, we are popping. That music is popping. Had me going this morning, Jimmy Costas. How you doing, boss?
I'm doing great, buddy. I'm doing wonderful as always. So look at me. I'm having a bad hair day today, Joe. So I thought I'd wear a hat. I know it's kind of hard to believe I'd have a bad hair day since I have no hair, but yeah, I went with the hat today. So
You have
what we
bad
got?
hair. That's literally the worst excuse I've ever heard in my life, actually. But that's okay. I mean, whatever you got to do is fine, man. We are having a great time. It was homecoming week here, so we'll get into some of that stuff. It's really interesting, just connections with people and everybody coming back and talking about it. But I think it's been it gives you a chance sometimes in that leadership mode of go 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 do. If you don't take a step back to realize the impact, if you can't take a step back and hang out and connect with kids in a way that you want to, then all of a sudden you miss the boat in terms of the purpose that you're working with. Anyway, I think it was cool to be able to kind of. It's funny. I don't even want to say it because you're going to make fun of me, but at the same time, it's like you recalibrate kind of what we're doing. I was actually going to say recalibrate, then I'm like, that just sounds awful. Not because it's awful, but because I don't want people to think I'm pushing a new book. But
Hey, you
at
got to
the same time,
recalibrate, Joe. That's
all
right.
right, that's right. Hey,
You got to
congratulations.
recalibrate. That's
Congratulations on the book. I got a chance. I mean, in all seriousness, I got a chance to read it, and it made me uncomfortable. Honestly, let's be honest about it. It did. There were things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to take a step back. But it also made me feel really good in terms of some of the stuff that we're doing. So it was definitely challenging. At the same time, it provided some. I've never talked to you about this before. We should probably have had this conversation before now. But it pushed some of the thinking in terms of not completely retooling what needs to be done, but just tweaking it in a way that not only helps the people we lead, but I kept thinking, well, this is going to help me feel better about the work, honestly. So, yeah, I don't know. So, congratulations on it. I also told people on Twitter that we're giving 5 copies away.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, we might. Hey, anybody who jumps in the studio today, we'll give them copies today, right?
So what are you going to do with the other 4?
That's right. Yeah. For the one person that joins us live today, you get all the books. They get it all comes to you.
I know, man. But I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I think, like I said, I'm not here trying to butter you up because we don't do that. But at the same time, I thought you did a great job on it. I really did. I really thought it was great. So best of luck with it, and I'll certainly recommend it. And we can give away, like I said, we'll give away 1. I mean, unless more people come into the studio, but. Yeah, if anybody wants to jump in, we'll give them a copy. Up to 5 people, we'll give them a copy. And when I say we, I mean you. I'm not giving anybody. Somebody can have mine, but right now, if I give mine away, Jimmy, if I give mine away, honestly, then all of a sudden my screen looks like this, right? Like that's how I'm using it to make sure that I level it out. So good. So I can't give it away right now, but I can give it away after the show.
That's right. Kim Flanders says, me. Kim, you're the first one. You are in, girl. We're taking care of you.
Right.
So fantastic. If you'll do us a favor, if you reach out to me, Kim, let's see. I don't know what the best way to do it. Twitter, website, email, doesn't rhyme.
Just DM a message. Yeah,
just DM, do whatever you need to do. Find me. If you can't, reach out to me on the website. We'll take care of you, Kim. So
you can have mine, Kim. You can have mine. I can send you mine too. I mean, that's like not, because I'm not using it anymore. I read it. It's fine.
That's right.
But I got like 7 books that I can level stuff out with around here. We're good to go, man. All right. Anyway, so yeah, we'll give away.
You know what Kellyanne's thinking right now? She's thinking, "Are you serious? Dang, I just ordered it. I'm going to cancel that order and see if you'll send me one instead."
She didn't order it. She didn't order it, people. She didn't order it. Nope. She was waiting. She's waiting. All right.
That's right. We'll take care of you. Thank you so much. But Joe, no, in all seriousness, it's one of those things, right? And I tell people, I don't know if any in the audience here today, if you're, some people may have already written a book, thought about writing a book, started writing a book. But I mean, I always tell people, Joe, I don't know your experience in it. I think I do just because of our conversations we have, but it's grueling. It's hard, right? It's grueling. And I hate everything about it. That's what I tell people. I really do. I hate writing. I don't have confidence in writing. I struggle to write. But I know that at the end of the day, when it's all finished, it's like I can't describe the feeling, right? And so And part of it is it's a reminder to all of us, right? The vulnerability that it takes, right? Because you are going to put something out there and people are going to look at it very critically and say, oh, this. And so you're already vulnerable. So you're anxious about that. Like, what if it sucks? And then as you're writing it, you have to reread it 1,000 times. And every time you read it, you hate it more and you hate it more. And then it just all starts sounding the same. And you kind of go through this. But at the same time, there's always this thing in the back of your head that says, I know, but these are the experiences that I'm seeing or experiencing myself. And I just feel like it would help somebody, right? Because you have these conversations with people and then people are very encouraging and all these types of things. But it's also this, Joe, I don't know for you, but you know how one of the things we always ask kids to do in school, there's so much writing that happens in schools. And we ask kids every day to write. And we see a lot of kids in our schools that really struggle with that. And then I think we as adults sit there and go, you can do this. You just got to do this. And you just got to do this. Like, it's okay. And, everybody feel. And then yet you're in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, we as the adults say that to the kids, but look at us. None of us are doing it, right? Like, you do it. And this is this. And so I think it's a constant reminder to us just what kids are experiencing in schools, right? Yeah. And so it allows us to kind of have that same feelings that our kids are having. So that's another reason for me personally. It allows me to kind of go back and remember what it feels like to be a kid. And when you struggle and you're anxious and you don't have confidence, you don't feel capable. And so I think there's so many benefits that come from it. At the end of the day, you do the best you can. And there will be people who don't like it. Hopefully it resonates with some people. And at the end of the day, guess what? I wrote it for me. I wrote it for me. It's, for therapy. I wrote it for me because it helps me get better. It helps me think through things. But all I know is in the last 2 or 3 years, I know it's been brutal for people. And I was just trying to write something that would help people recalibrate, right? To say, hey, you know what? We got this. We know what to do, but we're just tired. We're tired and we need to just take time to slow down, recalibrate, clear our heads. It's almost like when you go through trauma, like I talk about in the book, or you go through this traumatizing experience or this grief, we're just not at our best. And it's not a good time to be making decisions and how we run an organization or how we lead a classroom. And so for our teachers out there, I was trying to help them see like, hey, it's okay to have these experiences. All it really means is we just need to stop, pause, recalibrate ourselves, and let's go back. But it more to me was systemically, because I still think that the best cultures to me are those that there's no finger pointing. That's kind of what I want to talk a little bit about today, Joe, because I, had some experiences yesterday out in the field coaching in Michigan, and just the number of times we're all doing it, right? This isn't like one versus against somebody else. We're all doing it. We're all vulnerable because we get frustrated when we don't get the results we want. And there's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blaming, right? And I talk about this in Recalibrate, is this idea of being on the perimeter and looking around and looking why something isn't working or why we're not getting the results. And it really is hard to reflect and say, yeah, but what am I contributing to that, right? Why am I blaming my principals, right? Like, I've got to imagine there are times Joe gets frustrated with his principals, but just like the principals get frustrated with the teachers, and just like the teachers get frustrated with the kids, and the parents get frustrated with the teachers. And it's because we're not getting the results we want. So anyway, I try to take that information, the experiences that I had in the field the last, 2 to 3 years, and try to write about that and try to help people say, if we recalibrate this, if we reframe it, if we see it differently, then hopefully our response will be differently as well. So anyway, that was the attempt to do. So anyway, appreciate that. But talking about the blaming thing, Joe. So I do want to start that conversation today. So I want our audience to kind of think about that. What are some things that, if you really reflect, what are some things that are not going well in your organization? And are there times that you also begin to look around the perimeter and look who to blame? And so the question is this: can we take time to reframe things today for ourselves and say, what's one thing that I'm thinking about right now that I'm thinking maybe I did blame somebody for something this week, and maybe I need to reframe it and look at myself and say, well, how did I respond to that? What did I contribute to that? Was I emotional? Did I come too hard at it? Did I get frustrated? Did I treat someone in the way I should have treated, just like I did this morning, right? Because we get anxious, we get stressed, we get frustrated, and sometimes we're not at our very best. So anyway, so Joe Sanfilippo, talk to me about the blame game, your experiences with that. Any thoughts on that?
Well, it was literally 7 minutes. I haven't said anything in 7 minutes. I'm sitting here. I fell asleep 9 times. You said the same thing like 8 times in a row, for God's sakes. I mean, So let me wake myself
Well,
back
that's
up.
because you only take 1 minute to do everything.
I'm
know
right.
you
I'm
would.
right.
It was
I
1
put-
minute from your house to the
I'm
school
saying-
every day.
Listen, man.
And you
listen,
talk about that 1 minute and you still drive to school.
man.
So don't even talk
Can
to
I
me.
tell you something?
You
Do you
drive out
realize
of your driveway, go into the parking lot, and you're there. So I get it.
whatever. Do you realize how hard it is to do 5-hour energy drinks while you're on camera just to stay awake for that thing? I did it though. So here's the thing is that, and I couldn't agree more. And I think that what you didn't mention is how often you say, well, if we're frustrated with some of the things that are happening, how about when people are frustrated with us because of something that we did? And we didn't even think about it. I mean, that's happened to me multiple times. And the idea, I didn't even think about something that I did, made a decision that I thought sounds like a good decision. Let's get going. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't think the ramifications of that decision. So then when I have to go back and say, oh, I'm really sorry, we can't do that. Then all of a sudden it turns into, what were you thinking? You said yes. Like who influenced you to say no now? What's going on? I mean, I'm like, well, sometimes you just think about it. You think it's probably not a good idea. And you know what? I screwed up. But at the same time, that kind of hits your vulnerability sometimes, and to the point that it also hurts your credibility the more often that you do it. And I think so. There are things that I guess I always look at it from that lens. When somebody's mad about something, I think the first thing that I think of is, what did I do? Almost to a fault. Even if it has literally nothing to do with me, literally nothing to do with anything that I've been around at all, my first thought is, okay, I mean, what did I do something that contribute to this? And that's not healthy, but it's what I do. And I think I got to be cognizant of that sometimes. But at the same time, I think that's kind of comes with leadership too. If you're in charge of stuff and you give people capacity to lead, sometimes that doesn't mean that you eliminate the anxiety that comes with everybody else's decisions too. And it's easy to blame at that point. It's really easy. It's also really easy to say, well, I had nothing to do with that, right? I mean, at that point, you're doing almost the same thing as blaming, because you're absolving yourself of any responsibility in the situation. So the connections that I hope that we can make with people are enough where, A, if you screw up, they're going to tell you. And B, you're willing to look inward, but not let it drive you in the future. Like if a situation comes up that I reflect on and think, what did I do to contribute to that? And I spend a lot of time thinking about what happened in the past, I already have impacted my next decision because I'm not present and engaged for the next decision. And I do that way more than I care to admit, honestly, but I just did. So, I mean, like I think we got to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. I'm looking at Carol's comment here, Joe, in the box, where she says it's easy to shoot the messenger when in fact that's all they are, is just the messenger. And that happens a lot, right? But I think the challenge with that, and Carol, I don't know how you'd feel about this, but I do sometimes, it is hard to be the messenger, right? Because here's the challenge of being the messenger. How are you the messenger and still carry the banner for the people you're delivering the message for? Because I think that's where the whole they comes into place, right? Especially if you feel like all of a sudden they come at you and you're saying, hey, listen, I'm just a messenger sharing. It's they, right? It's them. And now we fall into to me, it's almost like a different way of blaming. And I think that's why it's so hard, is that how do we continue? Because I still think, and when we're experiencing cultures and organizations, there is so much divisiveness in the cultures, because what happens is there are still, again, it's trying to look out to, like, I don't want to get beat up. I don't want to get blamed for this. And so it's just a fine line. And that's what's really hard. So I think one of the skills is, how do we say, hey, listen, I'm going to share something with you here, and I'm just going to be really honest. We had a meeting this morning, but I'm going to tell you that this has been hard on everybody. Okay. So I know it can get frustrating, and we have to be careful, because look, yes, decisions were made this morning, but we're not going to blame anybody, because we all, at the end of the day, we have to figure this out. So let me tell you what's going on, because at the end of the day, the message I'm going to deliver was not easy for the messenger to deliver either, right? Nobody wants to deliver this message, but we have to deliver the information or the message or whatever it happens to be. So I still think how the conversation looks like when we deliver that message is really important, because there's a danger there. There's another potential undercurrent that, if we feel attacked, we could, say, hey, it's not me, it's them, or I'm just still the messenger. They're the ones that did it, right? And then we're right back into the blame game again, right? We're back on the perimeter. So how do we stay off that perimeter in terms of when we think about leadership? So
I think it comes down to all of these interactions, right? Like I know that there are certain areas of the building that I feel more comfortable in having a tough conversation with people than other parts of the building. And it's almost exclusively placed in areas that I don't spend as much time in. So if I'm not in those areas as much of time building social capital and connections, when I have to have a tough conversation with them, it feels a lot more awkward, right? Than if I'm having a conversation in another part of the building where I just see people more often. And that's on me. That's 100% on me not being in those areas as much because, like you're not setting yourself up for success in the future. And sometimes it's like, what do we control when we exit our office to try to connect with people in terms of where we go, when we go, and the interactions that we have when we're in those spaces? Are they positive? I found myself in the last couple of weeks just trying to get to everybody as opposed to connect with everybody because I wanted to make sure that I could get to the whole group. I saw somebody yesterday. I'm like, I have not even seen you since the school year started. I am so sorry. And then at the same time, we started having a great conversation about some of the stuff that was going on in her particular area. She's a wonderful teacher. And I felt bad for two reasons. I felt bad that I haven't got a chance to see her in her space, but I also almost felt bad for me because the work that she does is absolutely incredible. And I get joy when I go to those areas that she's working in. And I mean, so it was twofold. I mean, she just came to pick up a t-shirt for for homecoming, or we gave t-shirts to all of our staff members. And she walked by, she said, hi. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I haven't even seen you. I'm like, it's like, man, it was, it got me because that's totally on me. And it's interesting because I've been around, right? I've been to all areas, but at the same time, it's when I choose to be in that spot and how long I choose to be in that spot and the interaction that I have in that spot. And it was more important in my mind to get to those spaces as opposed to connect in the spaces. And that's just like, and we're all learning, right? I mean, if we're gonna be vulnerable today, man, that's a fail on my part. But at the same time, that's what it was.
Yeah, there's a couple things you said there, Joe. I was just thinking about that when you said it, and it's a great reminder again. So here's what I'm thinking right now, what you said. So look at the people that are, on the show with us right now. Okay. So I'm going to guess that some of the people on the show right now have their own children in school, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's a reminder again, when you say to me, Jimmy, oh God, I hadn't seen her for 3 weeks and I felt guilty about that. Right. And again, sometimes all of us can get in the habit. Principals can complain about superintendents who don't come to their building enough. Teachers can complain about principals who aren't in their classroom enough, right? There's the blame game again. But the question is this, and this is where I get a little protective of school leaders because I do think we get beat up a lot sometimes because of the amount of, just the time allocation, the expectations of time that we're supposed to provide to all of our people in our organization that we serve. And the reality is we are one individual. Mm-hmm. So I do think it's a good reminder, right? Again, thinking back to the different levels is, hey, listen, if there are teachers out there that are frustrated that their principals aren't in their classrooms enough, then what I would say is rather than blame them for not being in your classroom, what if we were being more intentional in connecting with them and just reaching out, stopping by their office and saying, hey, listen, I know it's been crazy. I know it's been busy at the start of the year. Hey, I was wondering if by any chance next week you would have time to pop in my classrooms for a couple minutes. Or give them a specific day or invite them, a personal invitation, or have students go to the office and ask the principal to come to the classroom. I think, again, there is that, how do we build these cultures where everybody supports everybody instead of pointing the finger and blaming? Because I believe that no one is intentionally, you didn't say, hey, you know what? That teacher I have, I don't think I really want to see you for 3 weeks. Nobody's doing that. And so maybe that's the same thing, right? So principals, listen, if you're complaining about your superintendent not being at the building enough, then reach out to your superintendent and ask them to come to the building because you want to show them something, or you want to brag about something, or you feel very proudful about something. And if we all did that, right? If we all did that, then I just think we would be so much better as a culture. And so I think sometimes that intentionality of getting off the perimeter and not blaming people, but what are we doing intentionally to try to make those connections and help other people be the best versions of themselves? I want Joe Sanfilippo to be great. I'm not going to complain about him not being in my building. I'm going to invite him to my building so other people can see him in my building, and then we can all support him because I know he'll feel great about when he does that. So anyway, that's just what my thought was just now when you were sharing that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it just kind of depends on, it also, I think, depends on role too, right? Because for me, I think, our building leaders are in spaces all the time, all the time. And that's great. And that's, I think, honestly, more important than me being in these spaces all the time. But at the same time, it's still essential that I find myself supporting what that work looks like. And it's hard to support it if you don't know it. And it's really hard to give a suggestion about the area if you haven't been in the area. And I think you lose a tremendous amount of credibility when you start making suggestions about what second grade should look like if you haven't been in second grade. And I know that there's times that I've done that and just not know what it feels like. I'm in that same situation. Like, we got to be just real. I mean, we got to be better about having that conversation. And I do too. So.
Well, it's no different, Joe, right? When we go out to speak, right? It's the same little, I'm always a little worried, right? I don't want to be that guy, right? I don't want to be disingenuous and try to tell districts what they should be doing, right? When hey, I don't even know anything about your community.
Right.
I've never been in your classroom. So I think that's one of the things that at least I try to do is just be really honest and say, look, I'm here more to talk about how you think, right? About your teaching or how your leadership or how you think about your culture. And then our job is to kind of work through that. And then you pick and choose because you know your classroom, you know your buildings, and would any of these ideas or suggestions or thoughts actually impact your culture in a more positive way, right? So it's the same thing. It's like when I was a principal, right? Someone would come into my building. That's my personal, this is a personal issue that I have with canned things that we're supposed to purchase, because it says to me like, well, I know that, but if you've never been in my building, you're trying to sell me something, but yet you don't know what we're even dealing with, right? You don't know our community, you don't know our culture, and so forth. So I do think a lot of those things intersect when we're talking about culture and how the environment looks and feels to other people. But you just said something again about that connection, and we see this as well, right? It's the same thing. Like this whole notion, we hear this all the time, right? Oh, they're not your kids, they're not my kids, they're our kids, right? We hear this a lot, right? The best culture, see every kid is our kid. However, we also have to be realistic and say, listen, we also know that when it comes to students, especially those that struggle, whether it's behaviorally, academically, social emotionally, whatever, oftentimes those individuals, the adults in the building who have the best connection with that child, will get the best result with that child, right? In terms of how they respond back to the adults. And it kind of goes back to what you said, Joe. It's hard to have a conversation, especially one that's complex, right? When you don't have a relationship with that individual. So it's a reminder again is, listen, we know the challenges that come when we have to address student behavior when they're not our kids, right? Because we don't have them in class, we don't have a relationship with them. But I do think it's a reminder that we still have to be intentional and at least acknowledging that behavior, right? Because I think it brings a unified expectation across the school that, listen, I know they're not my student, but I can still approach and just say to this young man or young woman, hey, just a reminder, just be careful with your language, okay? And then that's it. We're not asking you to fix the problem. We're just saying, hey, at least acknowledge it so kids can begin to see that we're unified in our expectations. And we see this all again when kids get frustrated because one adult calls them out on something and another adult doesn't. And then some adults, whatever that rule or policy is, right? Now we create a division again, right? One teacher does it, one teacher doesn't. And that's why it's really important. It's more of a mindset. Our kids is about having a unified expectation about what do we value in our school? What do we value as a culture? What are we going to tolerate? What are we going to say, no, that's not appropriate? And so again, these are all things for all of us as reminders that that's what we deal with in culture. And so those connections are really, really powerful because if you have, I think it's easier to have a complex conversation with someone that I have a relationship with than someone that I don't have a relationship with. And so I think those investments ahead of time, if we can already predict that we're going to have a conversation, then let's start investing time in that relationship now, whether it's a teacher with a parent, right? Families, we know this as well. That's why we say, let's connect with families long before, because you can already predict at some time in the school year, there's a chance that we're going to have a conversation with a parent about their child's behavior or their academic performance. So
Mhm.
it's a reminder for everybody again. And it's the same thing with principals or superintendents or whatever our role is.
Yeah, I think I take it even a step further in there. Even if we don't know that there's going to be an issue moving forward, what's precluding us from having a relationship prior to anything happening? Because you don't even know what could happen, right? Like the more relationships that we develop, the more connections that we have, all of the conversations moving forward feel better. Again, I feel more connected in certain areas than other areas, and it's way easier to have difficult conversations in those areas because of the connection that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I guess, honestly, I think sometimes it's easy to say those are the easy places to have connections because there's not going to be a tough situation at some point with certain families or individuals or whatever the case may be. It's just going to be a good year. Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be, that's just like, and so it's easy to sit down with those people because there's always something great to talk about. And, I think if the more that we get to know everybody, the one thing that we can know about our, any staff member or family or whatever the case may be, if just knowing one more thing. And I think you're right, though, on the other side of it, we're talking about, if we consider our staff to be our class, right? You consider your staff to be your class. Well, we got 120 kids in my class then, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of kids, a lot of adults. There's 120 people that we have on staff here. That's a large class, right? So I think that I give everybody grace in that regard, but it doesn't mean that we should stop moving forward and trying to make connections with 120 people.
Yep. And differentiate for those 120 people, just like we expect teachers to differentiate for those class sizes, whether it's 15 or 20 or 25 or 30 or whatever the case. So that's exactly right. So, hey, listen, if there's anyone out there who would love to jump into the show with us right now to talk about anything about culture, maybe it's something we've shared today and talked about, maybe it's something we touched on, maybe it's something that you shared in your tweet that you want to expand on, in the thread. Jump in into the show with us right now. We've already given out at least one book. Look,
we did.
We're giving out free books to jump in the show. We'll send you a copy. So
that's right.
We would love to do that. So if anyone wants to just share it in there, I think that the link is in there. If you join the StreamYard link right there that we just shared in there, you can jump into the show with us right now and just share your thoughts with us. It has anything to do with leadership or culture or whatever's on your mind. So jump into the studio with us and share your thoughts. So we would love to hear what you have to say.
Right. But if there's any bald, guys out there, that's going to look really weird on a screen. So, so they can't come in.
Oh, look at Josh. Where is Josh's book? So let's see what Josh has to say. Josh, oh, man, coming to us all the way from Texas.
He's got
Where's
hair.
my book?
He's got hair,
Where's
so it's okay.
book?
He can be in.
Say something, Josh. Earn the book. Earn it, buddy.
Hey,
Go.
I'm a follower. I'm an addicted follower to the Crickets and to Jimmy. What's going on?
I'm an addicted follower.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm always here.
There's therapy for that, Josh. There's therapy for that. We can talk to you about that. We'll get you in. All right. What are you doing right now? Where are you?
I'm at the gym.
Oh my goodness. You're taking a break. That's dedication, man. Dedication, my guy.
My two leaders that I follow motivated me to finish chest day. So great job. Hey, I just want to say one thing. Just real quick. I just want to say, I agree with like always, I agree with what you guys are saying. But a lot of it falls on our shoulders, Jimmy. It's so true. Everything falls. But you know what? We chose to be in the chair that we sit in. You know what? When we applied, we wanted Joe to call us for a second interview. We wanted to go to his office to become that assistant principal. We begged to the Lord Almighty that we go to the second interview and that our name is cast to the board. So when that comes, it comes with a lot on our plate. And so I don't believe at all that someone that sits in our chair could either complain about going to orchestra duty, basketball duty, about dealing with that angry chair parent, about none of that stuff, because you know what? We decided to get that chair, and it's what we accomplish, establishing the culture, like you always say, Jimmy. You always say this. You always say, establish the norm so that there is no undercurrent. Establish the consistency and patterns of behavior, and that is what avoids all the crap that comes on us. On a Sunday, they were dealing with that chair parent. On a Saturday, they were dealing with that freshman that didn't play starting quarterback. All of those things are tied together. But if you establish that love and connection, everything will be good for you.
That's awesome. Well, Josh Tovar, we know you're in the middle of doing your chest workout, buddy, and way to hit the gym, way to take care of yourself. And guess what? You're going to send me a DM with the address, and I'm sending you a book, my friend, okay? Thank you so much for jumping in with us. Love you, buddy. And we'll chat about your comments there in a second. So appreciate you, man. Thanks for jumping in. All right, buddy. All right, anybody else who wants to jump in? You see how easy it is? Just jump in, give a thought or two. But, you know, Josh, one of the things I love about it, if you guys follow this guy on Twitter, you need to. This guy is all in. All in. I've never met a guy who spends so much time trying to connect with every one of his kids, birthday cards, personal notes. He'll spend, a couple hours just writing those out. And the long-term impact that it has on kids and the relationship, those are the things the kids will remember. Like, oh my God, my principal took time to actually write me a personalized note for my birthday, or a congratulatory note. So Josh is one of the best at doing that. And again, it's just that investment of time, right? That investment of time, how important that is. So
I couldn't agree more. I think, and he said, so the thing that he said that got me is that we chose it. And there's days that I feel like, what are we doing? I'm like, this is a lot of stuff coming on me, but he's 100% right. Like, we chose it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. We chose it, right? And I think that if you choose that, you don't just choose the great stuff that comes along with the situation. You choose the other stuff too.
Yeah.
And that's not just a school leader thing. That's an everything thing. There are things that we talked about. When we talked about it last week. That whole we have get to jobs, but there's got to stuff in a get to job. There's nothing wrong with the fact that there's got to stuff in a get to job, but at the same time, if the got to stuff drives your happiness in the get to job, then you never get a chance to actually experience the great things in the get to job. So we got to be really careful about that, but we have to be careful on both sides. We have to be careful about the idea that, there are things that you're not going to like about the job, regardless of what the position is. But if you can keep coming back to purpose, right? If you keep coming back to why you do what you do, and you don't think about the end result, but you think about what you can do next just to kind of stay in the moment, then all of a sudden you put yourself in a better situation.
Yeah, that's why I always share in my talks. Just I always go back to what Dan said to me when I was having my little I call it my recalibration moment, Joe. But let's be honest, it was a meltdown. It was an intervention. That's really what it was. I've just changed the language over the years because I know
because of the book is what you did. You changed the language because of the book. That's what you. I see what you did there. How come it's not sitting in the back? It's like, I decided to recalibrate. It was a recalibration moment. You liar! You are a liar. That's such garbage. Whatever.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do.
Okay, the first time you ever said that ever in life. All of a sudden, now I'm gonna recalibrate it.
Well, here's what I'm gonna do then. I'm going to hack my leadership, and I'm going to lead from where I'm at right now. That's what I'm going to do for you, Joe Sanfilippo. You hear me?
But I didn't say that, Jimmy. You said that. That's on you. I didn't say it. Well, I'm sitting here trying to think about how I can hack my leadership for today because that's really my recalibration moment, and I'm going to culturize the rest of this office. I mean, this is what we're talking about, man. But yeah, you're 100% right, though. If you have people that are in that moment that bring you back to why you do what you do, we need people like that, man. We do. And you can call it whatever you want, but I'm telling you, it's real. It's 100% real. Happened to me this week too. It happened to me this week too. I was in a situation where I didn't know about what I was causing because I just kept going. And then somebody called me out on it. I'm like, yep. I did that. That's me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I think you gotta have that conversation.
Yeah, he said to me, "What happened to the young man we hired that came to the inner city? He was going to change the world, right? What happened to that young man who sat in the interview chair?" That's what he said to me, and I was pissed, right? Because I'm like, "Wait a second, I'm here, and you're supposed to be on my side, and you're just calling me out." But that defensiveness that comes out is because know they're right? It's the moment where you realize, God, I suck. I'm a failure, right? I let all these people down, right? And in that moment, it hits like that, right? And so it's a reminder, right? So for the principals that are watching today or are going to listen later, here's the thing to remember. Listen, I know we can get frustrated with our staff sometimes, and it may not have been you, but we hired these people. And when we hired them, we sat in a room and we talked about these individuals. And we said, oh, they're going to be great. They're going to be a great fit. Oh, man, that's exactly what we're looking for, man. Oh, we better hire them now before someone else hires them. And we were so jazzed and so excited. And when we hire these people, and then eventually, for whatever reason, they have these experiences that frustrate them. They get tired. They get toxic, whatever happens to them. But that's their story and that's their experiences. And now we're labeling these people. We're blaming these people. No, we need to say, how did we allow this to happen?
Yeah.
How did we allow this to happen? And it's a reminder again that everybody who sits in that interview chair, and that's the thing, everybody on this thread today, you, Joe, me, and all these people, and anybody who listens, we all have that one thing in common. We all sat in that chair and somebody hired us. And when we sat in that chair, we all said that we wanted to be great. We talked about what we were going to do for kids. We talked about how we want to influence and impact and be the change and be a champion. And now people lose their way. And that's why, again, it's always going to be about relationships, because it's the foundation of everything we do. And we have to understand, why do people behave the way they behave? It's because they've had these experiences. And so we've got to remember, and Josh is right. Yes, we chose the profession. There's no doubt about it. We chose it. And it's no different than social media, right? I mean, people complain, oh my God, these people are so negative and I'm getting attacked on social media. I know, but you love it when people say wonderful things about you on social media. You're choosing to be on social media. And you know there's going to be, Joe, you're going to have haters. I'm going to have haters. I'm not going to complain about that because I'm choosing to be in that platform. I can get out of it right now if I want to. If I don't want to hate, I'll just get out of it and be done. But I'm going to choose, because I still think, whether it's Twitter, a social media account, or our profession, the best and greatest profession there is, we chose it. And you know why? Because 90% of it is freaking awesome. That's why we chose it. And you name me any profession that doesn't have its 10% of BS, and I want to hear what it is, because it exists in every organization. And we have to take care of our profession. We have to take care of our people, and we have to carry the banner for this profession, because it is still the best profession there is, because we are the most important profession that impacts and influences kids every day. We get a chance to impact and change the trajectory of the life of a child, and quite frankly, the life of a colleague. And we need to take that.
And the community, and the trajectory of everybody, to be honest. I mean, we have the opportunity to change communities because of the relationships that we develop and the opportunities that we give kids and families and colleagues. You're right. And colleagues in particular. Like, what can we do to help them? Because it's not even, they may not have lost their way. They may have lost the support in their way.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
like,
I
they
love
just
that.
like, if that ends up being the problem, right? It wasn't that they lost it. It was, they lost the help along it, where they started to feel devalued in the moment.
Yeah. That's a good point. Hey, look, Joe, we got another. Look at Carol. Carol's jumping in.
Hey, Carol, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good morning, Carol.
The weeks we're all losing our voices here.
Yeah, you're out of voice. You're out of shape. That's got to get that voice back into shape. That's right.
I wanted to add to your conversation and a little shout out that being part of just your live broadcasts, and after seeing you, Jimmy, on opening days, the recalibration is starting, whether I'm in that chair or not, because the energy that you guys are bringing to me is a level of recalibration. Just hearing that we're all human. And we all have these issues of, shooting the messenger, don't shoot the messenger, find out the why of why the adults and the kids are acting and doing the way they are. It just is refreshing and, in your terms, recalibrating, just hearing the experiences and the reality of the experiences that you guys are bringing forth. So if there's any way we can get this to be a bigger communication way on these live streams and invite more people, it's recalibrating on its own. And I haven't had time in 2 weeks to sit in that chair, but hearing you, reading your books, and especially just the reality, you guys aren't bullshit. You guys.
Whoa, God, I love it. Carol's getting fired up now.
No, you're
Carol's getting fired
not. I mean, after 28 years, I've had a lot of opening days.
Yeah.
And this is the first year that the recalibration is setting in. And I haven't even had time to sit in that chair again yet.
Yeah.
So,
YouTube, hey, Carol, I know you're trying to promote us out there. YouTube is going to take us down now. I'm joking. I'm joking.
But it's the point that we all need that check.
Yeah,
Need
we
that.
do. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we have to grab, as educators or administrators or parents or human beings, we have to tap into wherever that check is available for us, be it a book, be it a live stream like this, be it an opening day, be it a glass of wine and Netflix.
There you go. Or
We
just a conversation, right, Carol? So, hey, listen, we are going to end the show, Carol, but hey, listen, drop your address or DM me or reach out so we make sure we send you a book, okay?
Have
Really
a great-
appreciate it. Thank you. Hope you
Thanks,
enjoy
Carol.
it. God bless you and thank you. And I love the fire you brought this morning,
Yeah,
girl.
that's right. That's
We
right.
appreciate ya. God bless. We'll see you soon. Oh, Joe, that was hilarious. Oh, my God. Carol just rocked.
She wasn't afraid. Carol wasn't afraid. She's just telling it like it is.
You just tell them the way it is. I love it. So I love it.
I think the reaction to your opening day keynote is different. The one than I hear about it. Like usually when I hear about your opening day keynote, it's like it was the best nap I've ever had. If you're talking about rest and wellness, Jimmy gave us the rest and wellness that we needed for 60 minutes. It was fantastic. He brought pillows. He brought pillows. It was
Hey,
fantastic.
Joe, look, you don't know how difficult this is, okay? You know how hard it is to be on a stage somewhere and look out in the audience and most people are like this? Right? I mean, come on, buddy.
I don't know that, but
that is, hey, if that isn't perseverance, I don't know what is, okay?
Right.
Hey,
So, yeah,
listen, well, I know we got to end the show, Joe. I'm going to
I know.
share one comment. I'm going to let you close it, my friend. But thank you again, Carol. Thank you again, Josh. And thank you, everybody who wanted to jump in this morning and share their thoughts on it. We really appreciate it. And we're really, really grateful for your just jumping in with us and being a part of this. And again, if you haven't followed the YouTube channel, we'd ask you to follow the weekly show at Jimmy and Joe. So that way you get the automatic links out to you. If you have others and you could share that with them as well, we would love that. Our following has continued to gain slowly every week. It's been awesome to watch. So we appreciate that. And just one final thought that I think it was maybe Josh that shared it. He was talking about duties, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a reminder again that sometimes we just need to reframe it. And I know sometimes we can get frustrated because we got one more thing on our plate, but whether it's a playground duty or a hallway duty or a cafeteria duty or whatever supervision duty there is, we're just going to ask you to reframe it, see it differently, and no longer see it as a duty, but as an opportunity. And that is an opportunity to invest time to build a relationship with kids on that playground, kids in those hallways, and kids in that cafeteria, and continue to remind ourselves that at the end of the day, it's always about those relationships and investing time. We are not in a perfect profession, and none of us are perfect beings. But what we can do is continue to reflect on our own behavior and ask ourselves, are we bringing the best versions of ourselves to those situations? And that's all we ask people to do, is because that's why reflection is so powerful, because without that, it's really, really hard to grow.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I'm not,
You think I'm
going to try to close the show after that? What is like, this is just here, I'm just going to do this really emotional and connection and motivational thing. But Joe, go close the show now. You're here to set leaders up for success. All you did was just knock me down. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Okay, now let's do an activity. I mean, seriously, Jimmy, my goodness. Like, you know what? Everybody, when you talk about the duties that Jimmy talked about, every time you go out into one of those things, just find one thing that makes you smile. That's it. Just find one thing that makes you smile. If you can do that, you'll walk away feeling better about it. I'm not going to go, all kids can, like we're going to do this motivational speech like Jimmy did. Just go smile, people. Chase the smiles. You'll feel better, and so will they. That's it. I'm out.
Joe, I'm smiling right now. I'm
Get
smiling.
out
right
of here.
now.
Go away. Go away. I got
Best
stuff
part
to do.
of
It's
my-
homecoming.
Best part
Go
of my
away.
weekend just kicked off.
You
this
got to
morning.
get out more. Then you got to get out more, buddy. That's all there is to it, boss. Get out. Good luck with your
All
hair
right.
day. Get out.
Joseph
All right,
Lippo, my
everybody.
man, we're taking off. God bless everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and hopefully we see you next weekend on the weekly show with Jimmy
How
and
many
Joe.
times are you
Talk
going
to
to close this show? How many times are you
God
going to
bless.
close this show? Jimmy,
I'm going to mute you right now.
you got
I'm
to
going to
be
mute
kidding
you.
me.
I'm muting you. I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you for this. God bless, buddy.